oh, hello there. I think you got to get in one of those at least on a stream at some point. Like, oh, we were just chatting. Didn't see you guys.
Oh, almost
But
didn't see you
welcome.
there.
Yes, welcome. Can you believe it? It is episode 2 of Congruity Corner, which is a live stream on the Congruity 360 YouTube channel. If you guys are watching in the chat, couple of things if you don't mind. First one, we hope you do. Did you hit the thumbs up on the stream just to show YouTube that you appreciate this free content? Secondly, get involved. Drop a comment. Let us know what's going on in your life while you watch this. Are you at work and you're multitasking? Are you on break? Are you at home today? You got a sick kid? Let us know what's going on in your life, you guys in the chat there. And if you want to go above and beyond and you want the Golden Star Bonus Ticket Award of the day, please consider sharing this stream out on your LinkedIn, on your socials, your group chat, your email. We don't even really care if it's a smoke signal, carrier pigeon, South American, ancient civilization, postal system, whatever gets the word out about this stream. You don't want to miss this one. And your friends would think you're really cool when you're the one that gets to show them into this world. So thumbs up, comment in the chat, and then also share it out. My name is Dan. Online, I go by Dancy Bearded. Government name, Daniel Command. That is my real last name. Imagine being a middle school history teacher for each year, 155 12-year-olds, and your last name is Command, Mr. Command. There's some issues there. There's some jokes there. However, I'm hosting this show today. We have a very exciting guest. But first, we have our co-host over here. We got the man looking like a modern Viking, and this is Mr. Nick Phelps himself. Nick, how are you doing today, sir?
I mean, fantastic. The grass is green. It's finally not freezing. I think we're about to almost break 70 today. And that's the official sign of spring. The robot mower is back in the yard, and I'm messing with perimeters and patterns and lines that I'm going to have him cut as designs in my lawn this year because that's what I do. Walter and I make a great team, as you know. But no, doing fantastic.
Believe it or not, we have spent an entire hour on a previous live stream before talking about his Walter, his
Thank you.
his robot lawnmower and just how incredible it is. And so, yeah, who knows what the future will hold, but maybe we'll have some, is there AI integration into that machine?
No, I'd love to say that there is, but there's probably some fuzzy logic as it works with the RTK radio system, which is like his guidance, system that he uses. But nope. I just assume that he's conscious and we treat him as such, just in case, we're ever on the wrong side of the robot uprising. We want Walter to be on our side.
I'm always unbelievably polite with all of my robots and my AI and anything. Even Siri, I'll say thank you, even when she's not in a good mood and she has some sass back to me. And I don't know if you ever catch that. Like she just clearly at 11 o'clock doesn't want to answer a question. She'll hit me with a sometimes, and I'm like, okay, I know that tone. I apologize. You are right.
Are you even listening?
So understood. And yeah, guys, we are going to have a very exciting guest. We'll get a little bio going in a bit here with Nick, and we got some great questions already, but feel free to throw your questions in the chat. If you can use a question mark, that helps me to be able to star the questions so we can come back to those. And just simply know once again that this is a technology live stream. This is a data management. This is a cybersecurity live stream, but it is unlike any other technology live stream you've ever seen before. We want you to look forward to this. We want you to enjoy this. We don't want it rigid. We don't want the PowerPoints. We want you guys feeling like you're coming to a spot where everybody knows your name and you get to catch up, but then talk about things that we have in common and have a lot of passion behind. So please enrich that chat, especially any Congruity employees out there, especially any of the people from our community that are interested in this stuff. We would love it. And to kick that off, in your area, Nick, we had mentioned something on the stream last week, and I believe it was Tyler, if I remember correctly, and we had mentioned comedians, and he was going to go see Shane Gillis in person, which is one of my favorite comedians, one of your favorite comedians. And then I had forgot about that. And once we got in here, you had an interesting little stat line about Shane Gillis in this last week.
Yeah, so it was funny. I went to the Shane Gillis show when he was in Boston last year. We didn't go to this one. I didn't even realize this was a multi-day one, but I was just watching on the news today. He set a record in Boston, which is crazy, especially with how many shows and events and just things we have going on in the city. From an attendance standpoint, to set a record is pretty impressive. And what he did, he set the new record for the most attended multi-day event at the TD Garden in Boston, which is just insane to think. It's something like 58,000 people attended.
Golly.
It just absolutely insane. And then he flew straight. So he did these shows here, and then he basically flew straight from here to LA to go host the Kevin Hart roast. So talk about a crazy week. He's sitting there just bouncing around, setting records, selling out venues, and doing the thing. That guy's killing it.
Amazing. So Tyler, if that was you, drop a comment how the show was, or anybody else out there in the last week. If you have any exciting wins to share, please do. And Aaron said he crushed the roast too.
Oh, he killed it. I was dying. I finally finished it last night. I had to multi-part it because of schedules, and I wake up obnoxiously early. So by the time it was like ending on, Sunday, I was like, I'm half falling asleep. So
love it. All right. Before we bring Matt in, aka OD, I will address the elephant in the room. I'm big on just putting it out there, not letting the uncomfort level grow and rise. Switched up the hat. I switched up the hat type. I do have a backup. I literally have a backup if I can't pull this off and this is not the vibe. I did not consult with Nick beforehand, and Nick will tell you like it is. How we doing, Nick? How we looking?
So first of all, just so I can address the elephant in the room by its official name, that's considered a doughboy, correct?
Leo in the chat is a cap expert, and
is that not?
I know a lot of people call it a Scully cap, but I know it's not that. I know a lot of people call it other things. And yeah, so the Boston, exactly.
I love it.
The Boston. So you guys know me, and Valahar's seen me hundreds and hundreds of times. I don't really rock stuff like this.
Oh, from the side, okay.
Am I? Yeah, I mean it's.
Oh, I mean, I'd say first of all, you're without any further questions, you're killing it. I mean, absolutely killing it. I mean, you look fantastic. But what I'm wondering though is I kind of like that one because it's a little less structured than a flat cap. Okay,
yeah.
So the flat cap is on point. He's calling it a flat cap, but it's like it's like a little puffier than a normal flat cap or a scally. I don't know. It's a little different.
And it does have a lot of almost like a mushroom up top.
Does it? Is that from Boston Scally?
You're gonna make me expose. Don't judge the hat hair, you guys. I got it up here still.
Oh, you stop it with that lettuce. It's no problems there.
I don't know. It's not. Outback Trading Co. Oh goodness, I apologize for the hair.
Look at that. Put it back.
Okay, yeah, put it back. There's one rule. Okay, so I had this as back. Literally was like, I don't know if this is the vibe, but it did seem Boston to me, so I threw it on. Okay, all right.
Absolutely killing it. I, on the other hand, do not think I could pull it off, but I think you're crushing it. And I went with the traditional. Okay, nothing fancy on my head here today.
Of course,
but that's nothing to see here except for just a nice scene of, I think, Acadia, right? Yep.
Of course. And our friend OG Fitzroy said a bad hair day is better than no hair any day.
That's it. That if I would have walked past my Arlo camera 8 years ago and seen a messy head of hat hair, I would still have hair. But what I saw instead was like a really bright reflection of my head that was going through my hair, which was not good.
Hey, you owned it. You owned it.
Now I went with it.
Looks glorious though. All right, sir. Are you ready to introduce someone that you know very well and interact with on a dang near daily basis, if not an actual everyday basis.
Yeah.
I'll kind of let you take it from here to give a little intro to our guest today.
The question is, are you guys ready? Not the question, am I ready? Mr. OD is a known commodity to me, but he's gonna, it's not many people let OD out of his cage and get him in front of people like this out in public. This is like a rare occurrence. It's not quite like Groundhog Day, because he's out in the open, down there in North Carolina where he is, but just around our audience and around our customers and our partners and everyone else, he's behind the scenes more than he's not. So it's a rare opportunity to get him out in the public eye. But so yes, I do work with OD on a daily basis. We work together on a number of things. He acts as my head of development in a number of areas. Head of system and software architecture for a number of endeavors that I work on. And really what that means when he's in that capacity with me is he makes sure that I don't do anything stupid. I come up with lots of crazy ideas, and we'll talk about my modes of execution on said ideas here in a little bit. But OD is he's my barometer in a lot of ways. He is my sanity check. He is my second set of eyes, and he's much, much smarter than I am. I think that's about, that's the extent of our daily interactions. But OD he's a serial startup CTO of sorts. He has worked across a number of startups over the years, and held various roles, everything from solution architecture and system architecture, software architect roles, to head of development and software operations, and the chief technology officer for a number of startups, some of which are household names. And then more recently, he's been kind of acting as a CTO for hire across multiple organizations at the same time. So being able to kind of hold that role and also scratch the itch of getting involved in something new and exciting, and always kind of being on the cutting edge of technology and staying up to date. And we will talk about this in a little more depth, but just so everyone knows, not all heroes wear capes, but Matt does have a superpower. And that superpower is somehow knowing the name, use case, and person who developed it for every new technology that's relevant to anything just about anybody might do in the software architecture and software engineering world. I don't know how he does it, but this guy, just in natural conversation, he's like OD GPT. You throw something out there like, well, I was trying to do this and this and this, and I was thinking about making something that did it because I couldn't find anything. And he'll be like, have you heard of? And there's always the have you heard of, and then whatever he says next typically solves your problem and saves you like a whole week of work. So that, again, I don't know when he consumes all of these new things at once. There must be like an IV drip feed that he's got like instead of a CPAP machine or something at nighttime. I'm not sure what it is, but it's incredible. So he's a really interesting guy. You guys are lucky to spend an hour with him. And with that, I won't take up any more of his time.
All right. If you guys could help me welcome Mr. Matt O'Donnell, a.k.a. OD. Awesome. OD, how are you doing?
Really good.
That was great applause. I'm doing great, Dan. How you doing?
Hey, doing well. Excited for the interview. I dig the hat. Did you feel some hat pressure to throw it on?
I did. I had to text my daughter and be like, hey, open the door and slip it into my office. So
he shaved off the beard and put on a hat.
Well, I shaved this morning because I'm like, I can't go on the podcast with peach fuzz when these guys have real manly beards. So kind of just went completely clean.
That is awesome. And yeah, Matt, we are excited. We got a bunch of different topics today, and we're going to open it up to the chat as well. I will say, as someone that is, I call myself the color commentator of the tech live stream world, where I'm not deep into any of this stuff, but I like to surround myself with people who are. And as I've browsed your list of stops on your journey, of course, the one that like jumps off the page to me is Hinge. And what I read was co-founder and CTO, that has to be one of your most unique stops on the journey, if not the most unique stop. I would imagine there has to be a whirlwind from the start to the exit to everything since.
So, I mean, it absolutely was. It kind of, the story behind that is I was working for another startup out of New York City, and it was one of those ones that you hear about, like they land all this money. I mean, Scott Kernett was the CEO. He sold about.com back in the 03, 04. And, you know, we did it about 2 years and then we had to fold like many startups do. And so on that, I was kind of doing a little hiatus, and a couple of friends invited me to come down to this accelerator in Washington, D.C. So I went down and Justin was in there. Justin McLeod, the founder of Hinge. And so I was just going around meeting the startups for the first class of 4 to 5 VC. And Justin and I started talking, and he was like, "Oh man, you're really nerdy." I was like, "Yeah, thanks."
Thanks.
And he was like, so he was like, "Yeah, why don't you come back down and have lunch?" So we had lunch, and then he asked me to be his co-founder. And so that journey was definitely crazy. Being in an accelerator, I started watching Silicon Valley again because just the experience in the accelerator it's very much just like the show. So, and this was 8 years before the show.
Wow.
Yeah.
They nailed it. Yeah, it was a great show. I forgot about that show.
Oh man, Pied Piper.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well-
love it. What was his Hendrix? What was his
Guilfoyle.
well, Guilfoyle was amazing.
No.
But I forget the main guy's first name. What was his last name was Hendrix. I forget.
Yeah.
So good. So you mentioned something there, and Dan, I know you're about to ask this question, so I'm just going to interrupt and ask
Hit
it.
'em.
There's going to be people here listening that don't know what an accelerator is.
Yeah.
Now, and I would imagine Dan might even be one of them. So he probably got an idea from watching Silicon Valley. But for everyone out there, like, what is an accelerator? Like, these things exist in real life, and they range anywhere from rented office spaces that people occupy during the day to houses that people occupy 24/7, all the way to compounds. So like, what are they, and what was your experience like with an accelerator?
So accelerators, I mean, not to give a dumb definition, but are to help startups and new founders accelerate their business. They're geared more towards the business, the pitch. It's like a science fair. You have to apply, you have to give your pitch. And if they like it, they'll let you into their class. And so they only have, for 4 to 5, there were only 10 startups in the first class. And so Y Combinator, Techstars in Boston, they only have so many seats per each class. Some of them call it cohort. But once you're in there, it's like, for us, every Monday was pitch day. So every Monday, all the startups, we would get into the big conference room and we would do pitches. And then we would talk, everybody would kind of be like, "Oh, well, you should focus on this or that." And so it's kind of helps each of the startups to kind of fine tune that message. And then if you need like marketing support or business questions, we used to do field trips. So there were a lot of startups in decent, well, not a lot, not compared to other areas, but there were a decent amount. And Groupon was probably the biggest one. Hello Wallet, Foundation DB. These were all ones that were out of the Northern Virginia, DC area. So like we did a field trip to Groupon and kind of hung out with their C-levels, had lunch with them. And then, so it's really kind of like business school for grown up. We did.
It's like startup camp.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we'd have
without archery
in the night. What was that?
I said without the archery.
Maybe.
It depends on the night. There could have been archery in I'll tell you, I'll never forget. Like after one of the startups had a funding round, and so we kind of they brought in a little party, a little social we kind of went later into the night. Next day, having a meeting, and there was kind of like this lounge area with the couch. There's some guy sleeping behind it. He just pops up. He's like, "That's a great idea." And I'm like, "Whoa!"
Hey,
So,
buddy.
I mean, when you see some of the things in Silicon, they really kind of truly happen. So
That's interesting. In the content creator world, like the YouTube world, they have similar things, but they call them like hype houses. And a ton of different content creators get together and they just go for a couple of weeks in a house. And it's just 24/7 filming content, editing content, helping. The same thing you just said. They give ideas. Hey, what about this video idea? Then they think through everything. And I guess it's super intense and they just pound out a ton of content. And YouTube has headquarters, and you can even go if you reach 100,000 subscribers, and you can use their facility. And so a bunch of content creators will go. Like if you guys are familiar with Rhett and Link, they do this at that YouTube headquarters and organize all these like essentially like think tanks for content creators to accelerate content. So it sounds like the same concept.
Very
yeah,
interesting.
it's very much about, you know, camaraderie, rooting
Yeah.
everybody on, helping them out, and
Yep.
you know.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Let's shift gears just a little bit here. And one of the biggest things that, if I'm picking up from Nick, that you deal with is AI and AI development. And when it comes to your work and to your life, how does AI, what is it? How does it interface? How is it being used? Just kind of what's your general approach right now? Because at least for me, someone living in just like I would say like the normal dad life, it's unbelievable how much AI is being brought up in every conversation and every flow of life. And it just seems to be the thing. And for someone that's been doing CTO work well before the mainstream AI, and then now that living within it, I'm genuinely curious for your take on AI currently.
It is remarkable. I mean, it is really fascinating at how far it's come. And even in the 2 years, well, probably about 2.5 years now, that I've been heavily involved with it from a development perspective, it's just been crazy. I mean, you know, it first started as code completions, you know, with Copilot and some people's editors, VS Code. You know, now it's like you hear these people one-shotting it. Oh, I rebuilt, you know, I had Claude build Doom in, you know, in the browser. And
Jeez.
so it is, you know, you got to take a lot of that stuff with a grain of salt, because the one shots or the moon shots, or the different ways, it's kind of like, yeah, you can do that, but did anybody open up the hood and see, does it really have horsepower, or is it a bunch of squirrel power? So you really have to be disciplined and still have to audit your code, still have to security check it. I mean, the one thing that AI doesn't have grasped really well is contextual, right? It doesn't know why you did it. So I always like to say, like, you can get 90% of the way there with AI, and then you still need that 10% of, I'm going to apply my craft, my software development craft to it, right? Which patterns are more efficient versus, you know, what Claude might have picked. So, and it's definitely changed the market. I was listening to the AI engineering summit last fall, and one of the guys talking was like, hey, giving AI to a junior is like giving a monkey a machine gun.
Yeah.
You know, it just kind of goes off the rail. They do whatever. So you have to be very meticulous in how you roll it out into an engineering team in order to help the adoption, because you can't just open it up and say, the world's your oyster, because that oyster is going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars if you don't use it appropriately. So
Interesting. And then this was my biggest question I wanted, and especially with that, and you get people, right? I used to think about certain things and just how monumental of a task it would be. And then if somebody didn't understand coding, it was just like someone like me, like, not possible. Well, now we've got this new lane, and I believe the like sexy name for it is going to be vibe coding and vibe coders. as an outsider, it seems like there's like almost two camps, and you have the vibe coders, and then you have the coders that judge them. And I'm for real curious, as someone who probably dabbles with both sides and interacts with both sides, your thoughts on vibe coding, and then just how is that evolving? What's its place in the market right now?
I don't know. It's kind of a loaded question, and it's very opinionated. I
Okay.
mean, some people who are super senior in the software world would probably say it's blasphemy, vibe coding. It's it's not a thing. Um, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's great for people. I think it's an easier entry point. I think people will
Mhm.
eventually use it and learning, like they might get more curious and help Claude to explain it. So is it a bad thing? I don't think so. I mean, it's, you know, in using AI for software development, you kind of fall into the waterfall methodology where you do design spec, spend more of your time on the spec, and then you let the agent go off and do it. And so
Mhm.
vibe coding is more the other one where we're not going to define a spec. We're just going to kind of riff as if we're just jamming on a guitar in a Dave Matthews jam session and see what we get at the end of it.
You know, what's
Um,
interesting there is you said a couple of things that stand out. So first of all, I feel like in the wrong hands, or it can be extremely dangerous, right? What's interesting is vibe coding can definitely be used as a description, as a verb, or as a slur, depending on who is using it.
Blur.
You know, really, that it blurs the line between between those things. And what you said about design and spec for things is, so for example, I'm absolutely guilty of vibe coding my way through concepts and scaffolding and those things. But I would say that my way of doing that might vary a little bit from like what people might think about when they hear the word, vibe coding. In that I have extremely rigid architectures, really well thought out specs ahead of time. We're laying out modules. We're having things follow frameworks and methodologies. I know, for example, like the things that I end up building up, people who actually know what they're doing are going to see it at some point. So I have to follow some level of being able to at least defend what I did and why I did it without appearing to not know anything about what I did, which I think would be the definition of traditional vibe coding. And I think so you go to the other extreme, and like you say, where it's just like riffing, right? That's where it kind of gets interesting, and I would argue a little dangerous, in the sense that on the surface it might be hard to tell the difference between something that was a well thought out piece of architecture that's actually using belts and suspenders in the background to keep things secure and stable and scalable and modular and familiar, right? Compared to something that is a complete cardboard muffin of a piece of code where it looks great on the outside, but there's just nothing on the inside at all. So I think there's one and the other, there's places in between. And then there's people, I think, that are on the other side of it, which is you, where, what you're doing to, to an extreme level, right? That world really, really well. And so your version of using AI to code is vastly different, because you're having it follow really, really rigid steps, and almost using it as a completion tool for code more than it is like a generative tool for code. So it's like there's so many facets to it. There's like, if it's in the middle, you can get there from any number of ways and leverage it differently and be accused of any different or any number of modes of execution, right?
Oh, I agree. I mean, I don't think vibe coding is a bad thing. I think it helps with the creativeness of the
Right.
software process. Um, because it's a non-deterministic system, you'll ask the same question, you'll get three different answers, and one of those answers might spark uh, a new idea to approach a problem that you wouldn't have originally thought of had it not given you a quirky answer. And so, because the problem is even as seniors, we get so rigid and we see this is the way we have to do things. This is the way we've always did things. We must just keep pushing this boulder up the hill. And, technology has advancements. One of the things, with Hinge, one of the cool things I did with Hinge is I love databases. And so I'm always kind of, you let out my secret of how I have my RSS feed tied into my CPAP machine.
That's
So
it. I knew it. I knew it. Nailed it.
And so it's like with these new technologies, you can use them differently and think about things differently. And so, at Hinge, instead of one database, I split it up into 3 different ones that were very specific that helped us get to on-demand queries. As previous, we were doing batch. And so, like in software engineering, there's a thing called rubber duck debugging. And so Claude or any AI is kind of like that rubber duck, except it talks back to you. And so, those things that it might say back to you that you're like, well, that's dumb. And then you're like, oh, actually, if we just twist it a little bit, it's not a bad idea. It might help solve problems in a more creative way.
Interesting. Now, quick question. You have referred to juniors and then seniors. What is the distinction there? Is there a certification? Is it years of experience? Is it just given when you're talking about the titles?
So juniors, it really all depends on the engineer's aptitude, but juniors are more probably people out of college or in their career less than 5 years. And then, 7 to 8 years, somewhere between 5 and 8 years, you might be a mid, and then everything over that, you might be a senior. But
Okay.
when I use it, it's more of the juniors are just learning to code. There's a lot of historical, the Gang of Four, different design patterns that they don't know about. They haven't been exposed to. Seniors know more of these different design patterns, hexagonal design, clean architecture, things like that. And they can, in the spec, they can tell AI, well, I want to do this, surface layer, data access objects, and, all these other things that a junior might not say. So it's hard. And the junior is not really qualified to audit the code that comes out of, Claude. So Claude might do an algorithm like a bubble sort or something. And, a college kid should know that. But if they were absent or played hooky that day, they didn't learn that algorithm. They wouldn't know how to say, is it implemented appropriately or not, or efficiently or not.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting. And then we have a great question from Leo here. And he says, I remember being told over a half century ago that English was a crucial programming language. If you couldn't clearly explain what you're coding, you're heading for trouble. Is that valid?
Oh.
Yeah. So it's funny. So when you start your CS degree long time ago, well, one of the things you'd always had to do before your programming assignment was write pseudocode, or at least my professors, we'd have to write it out in pseudocode, which is very English type thing. You just literally write it out like, read this file, loop over the lines in the file. If this, do that, then, so you kind of very Englishly write out everything so you can explain what it's doing. And then you would, after the pseudocode was done and you got your grade back, then you would, start writing it in C or C++. And it's very critical these days, because if you can't think about the problem and explain it, how are you going to, I used to call AI like a 300-pound 4-year-old, but I had lunch with someone last week and they're like a drunk intern. I'm like, I like that better.
Yeah. Drunk intern's a good one. Yeah.
So it's like, if you can't explain it to a drunk intern, how are you going to explain it to AI?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you know what?
Like
what's the similarity you think between pseudocode and vibe coding, right? If you can explain, like Leo says, if you can articulate in English, right, exactly what you want, you're on your way to being quite the proficient vibe coder at that point. And you're already, I would argue, probably beyond where most people would enter into that world of saying like, whoa, Claude can write an app. Well, I want an app that does X, Y, and Z. Go build it. And like, that's your ultimate, like, fall on the ground vibe coder sitting there, right? Whereas the pseudocoder is going to say, I want to follow this framework. I want to use this style guides. I want to use this, this library of tools, and I want to follow this methodology, and I want to build X, Y, and Z. And here's what the layout and architecture of that looks like. Go build it, right? Like those are both vibe coders at the end of the day, right? Because they're both not writing code, but at the same time, one of them is going to be, vastly more proficient than the other and generate much higher quality results, right? So it's almost like pseudocoding is almost turned into like vibe coding.
It's funny. You're 100% on that, Nick. And it's because that's before we had to talk it out, then we had to turn it into language. Now the interface is the language. So, in the programming world, I think we're going to see new programming languages that are, geared and easier for AI to generate and understand.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, in my sense, like I never really gave my definition of vibe coding, but my thing of vibe coding is, I use Super Whisper, right? Or no, I use Whisper Flow. I used to use Super Whisper, but these are AI tools where you just do dictation. And so I don't even type into Claude. I just talk to Claude, and in a very pseudo code-esque manner, the difference between that talking to the AI, I think that's the vibe coding. Whether I have rules in place that define best practices, style guides, things like that, I'm still vibe coding, just maybe way more detailed, right?
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. And for me, as that layman's guy, it seems like AI clearly is in the wild, wild west stages, especially for the common user. And I think we've hit this bubble where for a while, not everybody knew about it. So you could generate some things and be super cool. But now any of us in an instant can see an advertisement poster, and we all know when it's AI because it's all somewhat similar. All the graphics are kind of the same. Me as a former teacher, and then now with kids that are in school and dealing with people that interact with me, even the writing of AI has just the same tells over and over again. For me, it's the M dash. How do I know what an M dash is? Because AI is using it everywhere. And when I see people writing, I'm like, no one uses these M dashes in their normal writing. So very clearly it's AI. And it's going to be very interesting to see how we get out of that bubble where it's almost in the ways that it was an advantage maybe 6 months ago. It's a disadvantage, and people will see companies using these AI flyers and these very clearly AI generated things at a very basic level. And they're like, I'm not going to support that kind of business. And so it's interesting to hear the other side and how you guys are using it and how much more advanced it is, because it seems like there's a bubble in my world.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's funny. There was I forget his name, but he was a speaker at the Fall Summit at AI Engineering. And he was like, he has a startup in Y Combinator. And he was talking, he's like, I do AI so much that if you show me the response from an AI, that I can probably tell you which AI you were talking to.
Wow.
Based on one uses contractions, one tries to tell jokes, or is more bubbly in its response. And it's very true,
So no offense to
the M dash. This is ruining my life.
Leo's like, I learned it before that. No, I full teacher, 2 master degrees, like fully proficient in grammar. I'd never once in my life used an M dash, and then just with AI, it's just everywhere. I'll even go back in and be like, please don't use an M dash and make this seem like a 12th grade reading level ability or whatever it may be. And it's it's so interesting. So
you can always catch someone too. Just ask them, be like, hey, what's the hotkey on your keyboard to type an M dash? And they'll say,
right.
And they'll, it's, and you're like, you didn't write that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, on the coding world at a surface level, can either of you tell when someone is vibe coding?
As someone who vibe codes his way through a ton of stuff, absolutely. Especially when you get into like the visual design languages, right? Like when you get into like how something is presented, like the user interface, because AI only
Oh.
has a certain set of really compatible
Yeah.
libraries and tools that it can use to generate stuff. So you do end up with things that look similar and behave similar, what's interesting to me too is AI has fallen into like certain patterns from like even color palette, not even just design language or UI
Yeah.
layout, but the color palettes, like the purples and everything
Yep.
else that are there. Like you can kind of see it and you're like, oop, that's Shad CN with Tailwind. And I know the library and I know exactly which
The
part of it they
shadowing
used.
that they
And
use in
it's
the
like,
images. Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah. So it's funny. You can absolutely tell. Like,
Okay. And OD
Well,
probably really noticed it. Like, I hate the smell of clove. And if anybody uses like a drop of clove, I'll pick it out. They're like, dude, there's like 800 drops of other things, and you picked out one drop of clove. That has to be like that for OD.
it's funny. Like as you spend more time in software development, there's a concept called code smell. It's like you can just look at it and without really understanding, you say that just looks wrong, right? And
mhm.
then it takes longer to get into it. But the funny thing is one of the telltales that AI generated the code is the amount of documentation that it writes with the code. And like, you know, that's something that all of us should be doing in our craft is writing documentation
That we all
in
suck
the
at.
code. So it's very clear. The other thing is way more error checking. Um, it's very good about like, oh, I know I'm reading this file. Well, I need to make sure that the file handle is actually open. So we test it, in other regular developers, when they're writing it all by hand, they'll skip a lot of tests, and there's definitely not as much documentation. So, um,
Interesting. Show your work. Yeah.
Well, and so
yeah,
that's actually it is very long-winded, right? When you have AI write something for you, it's long-winded. So you have to, that same principle applies to the coding side of it, right? Like there's things that as humans we're like, it works. I'm not talking about how it works. But if you work on something and it doesn't work and you have to do like 10 things to fix it, you then want to brag about your fixes. So then you
Yeah.
document what didn't work and why you fixed it and how it ended up working and why it's better. So it's like the things that are problematic, you end up documenting. The things that just work, most humans include nothing to say about how it worked.
You're right.
mhm.
Interesting. Now, here is a unbelievable question. I'm sure you guys have pondered this. Never crossed my mind. Maddie says, I had to eliminate the M dash from my writing because of AI. Totally get that. And do you guys think that we're being trained by AI? Where is the line between we train AI and AI is training us? Is that too dark? Maddie,
Mm-mm.
holy crap, that is you're right. AI has trained me of things not to do. I didn't even realize it till you just said that. I avoid certain things so it doesn't look like I'm using AI. Whoa.
Whoa. And what you got to really define, there's a hidden statement in here too. And I think Matt will like this one is there is a big difference in that line of question and statement between teaching and training,
Wow.
because you don't always know you're being trained. You can typically know you're being taught because you asked for it, right? So what
Yeah.
things is AI teaching us, right? But what things, to your point, and I think Maddie's point here is what's it training us for? Right?
Oof.
Well, I wanna. If you think about it, it's kind of uh, the happy path, right? So in programming, there's the happy path. Like in AI, it's not really training us. It's kind of we want to stay on the happy path, so we do what it wants.
Oh.
Happy AI, happy life. Um, and so the other thing is it training or is it really Stockholm syndrome? Right? It's like
Ooh.
Mm,
they've held us
mm.
hostage, and now we're just kind of like, this is the way Claude wants me to do it. I will do it the Claude way.
Wow.
I mean, I've had Claude getting lippy with me. Like
Yes.
Claude
Oh,
Code, like
Yes.
Claude Code's gotten like straight up lippy, like sarcastic. Like I remember one thing I said, well, this isn't working. And it was in the design document that it was supposed to work before anything else. And it came back. This literally happened yesterday. And it said, well, I was in the middle of that until you interrupted me with 4 new tasks that we didn't have planned. And I was like, whoa, excuse me.
Wow. Yeah. That's so interesting. And just the way, and I think about being a teacher again. And if I'm grading high school work, what do you got to be evolving, it seems like, on a monthly basis, because you can get an AI tracker, but then they build something to get around the AI tracker. And it's just like you're looking for these tells, and we have people saying that they've used these things and now AI is not making them. It's same like the posters. Like if you are a content creator and you used to create art that's like the bubble of AI, you've got to shift right now because there's no way you can keep up with that.
No.
And so, yeah, it's interesting. And Leo says here, he says, I didn't understand logic until I started programming and using computers.
Yeah. I mean, it's, human logic is very different than machine logic, and it's funny, like the way that it adjusts, like the way you plan anything.
Yeah.
Canceling GPT subscriptions. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. In the beginning of the show, you guys were talking about, are you polite to AI? And this kind of goes with the training us thing. And there was a blog post that I read the other day where he was like, you should be polite to AI. And other people are saying, don't use words that aren't going to help your goal because you're just wasting money.
Yeah.
You're just wasting tokens.
Yep.
The guy's counterpoint was, kind of how on the human society, like when the internet came around, people less talking, they're always in their phones, things like that. And he was saying that you should be nice to AI because the way you treat it might start creeping into your daily life and you just kind of turn into an a-hole. Because you're like,
true.
I need you to get this now and skip that step and skip that step and just bring it to me.
So, dude, you're so
right.
dead on. And I was watching this interview, or I forget if it was an interview that I watched or something I read. It was a few weeks ago. And this guy was talking about how he sat down with someone who was more junior than him. And the guy started describing to him an idea. And the guy was all excited about it, right? And he said, I could tell right away that the guy had overused LLMs in his daily life because he was getting increasingly frustrated that I wasn't encouraging and supporting of his idea. And I was asking questions. So like the guy was so used to interacting with the golden lab that is Chat GPT of, yeah, that sounds great. Let's go do it. I'll build a plan. Right. And it's like, go, 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 and it's, this guy was like, I could tell this guy was, and he used a term and he's like, clearly was diluted from overuse of LLM, and I was like, oh boy, there's like an abuse side to this now where like people. And so Dan, to your point, like the way you do anything is the way you do everything. That's what OD is saying though, right?
You're right.
Like it's the way that you interact with it is it's going to start creeping into everyday life.
And I am a polite person, right? Matt and Nick knows that. And when I talk to people, I do use my manners and stuff. And so that is how it just is second nature to me. But I could see you training yourself. You are what you consume, right? And if you're just consuming those interactions, and Fitz comment, he was like, when my AI gets sassy, I up my aggression. And then we talk and he goes, shoot, should I apologize? That's so good. Oh man.
It's so true. It's crazy though. But I mean, like I talk to AI the same way that I talk to another person. I really do.
Same.
Like I use punctuation and capitals and Same. Like when I send text messages, I use proper spacing and capitalization and punctuation when I type, because that's the way I would write an email or anything else I write,
Yeah. And Leo says, Matt, in early days, I learned to avoid greetings and salutations and messages because of the high cost of transmission and storage. Still don't use them in email or text. Thank you.
Well, we have come a long way because, in the 70s, when they first established Telnet, like the first word that went across was ELO.
Oh.
because I don't know if they lost the H in it, but it was... That was apparently the string that they sent across in DARPANet back in the day.
Interesting.
Yep, that was it. It was the LO.
Hello. It was just British. Ah, that's terrible.
Or it could have been a Brit. Yeah, who knows?
Where's JB to correct us?
Yeah.
Where's JB to make fun of our accents, which is my favorite part about working with him.
I will say I am the biggest fan of if you need something, just get to it with me. I'm not the biggest fan of the fake, how you doing? Hey, how, in like email form or message form. Like if you have a question, just ask me. Just ask me. I don't have the bandwidth of my day for the not genuine small talk. And so I appreciate that. We can carry that over.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. That's a big one. And so, and yeah, so G Squared had a good point, and he was like, man, I was able to make a weather system out of vibe coding.
Yeah.
That's the next level.
Jive coding. That's the
jive.
bad side.
Yeah,
that's the bad side of vibe coding there. That's when something goes sideways.
It's like airplane. You got to speak jive to it.
Yeah. Oh, come on.
An airplane reference. Picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
So, but he brought up a good point. He said there are things that it motivates him to learn more things and to think about real coding. And I do this obviously, and I think Matt touched on it, case by case basis, right? There's so many different legs that this can take and careers it can make. It's just such an interesting time for this. And the only way I can explain it in my outside view is just the wild, wild west, just completely figuring it out. In sports right now, they have the NIL where you can get paid to be a college and high school player. And it's just chaos. They're just throwing $12 million at 16-year-olds and it'll all settle. They'll all figure it out. And that kind of seems like where we're at with AI. But it's just moving so fast.
Well, there's a whole other industry that you've got to think about is like the educators, right? There's a lot of guys that I follow on like YouTube and have paid for their courses just because they're real good at explaining it. And all those guys have, one, he's had to cut his company in half and because people are using AI to learn stuff rather than going and buying these guys' content. So they're all looking on how to, how are they pivoting to,
So speaking of pivoting and evolving, which I don't even know how we have 9 minutes left, but this is ridiculous.
All right, go, Nick.
I'm gonna micro machines my way through this one.
Yeah.
There's so like we talk about like the jobs that AI, I'm so sick of hearing people talk about how AI is taking jobs. Like my least favorite topic when talking about AI is to listen to anyone talk about complaining that it's eliminating jobs in any way, because in my mind, it's creating so much opportunity that talking about the old jobs that no one wanted anyway, that it's getting rid of, is just so it's nonsensical. It's irrelevant. And the reason I say that is there's things that we've always wanted to do, right? In a business, like when you're running a startup, when you're the CTO of a startup, there's things that you probably wanted to do at a number of places, and you're hamstrung by the bandwidth of your people, right? It's no knock on how smart they are and how efficient they are. It's just that the humans can only accomplish so much in a certain amount of time, and they get tired, right? And so now in my mind, people are like, well, you used to have junior developers, and now, the junior developer jobs are going away because it's all going to AI. And how is anyone going to progress from being a junior to a senior if their junior jobs are all gone? And in my mind, your team is now, those old jobs, they are gone, right? But they're not replaced. They're legitimately gone. Like, those jobs are not needed anymore, because you're now able to take those same people with that same mindset and direct them at such much larger tasks and move at a different velocity that those old jobs are irrelevant. It's not that they've gone away. They've been depreciated. And I think that's a big distinction to make, is that AI is not taking jobs. It's depreciating skill sets. And when you depreciate something, it's not that you're saying it was never valuable. You're taking it and you're putting it on the shelf and you're replacing it with something new. And I think the sooner we embrace that, right, in the sense that, like, no, we can't work in the same way that we would before, because it would be ignorant. And I think in order to make use of the technology, we have to embrace the fact that we're working in a different way. It's not that the old, the people weren't important doing those jobs. they're more valuable now. They can have a larger scope of impact. They can have a faster route to market. And now that CTO, you as a CTO sitting on, in front of a development team, your problems are different problems now because they move much faster. They're different. You solve them differently. And the people that you would have solved those problems with, you would never even consider throwing them at one of those problems again. You'd take that same person with his new set of tools and have him solve the problem. So it's shifting. It's the biggest pivot we've ever seen in technology since the invention of the internet. And we see what happened when people didn't embrace and were scared of the internet. They're not around anymore to talk about it.
I mean, it is true. Everything's evolving. And one thing that's constantly top of mind for me is, like you said, juniors are going to have a harder time and a lot more seniors are going to come back out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
It happened with COBOL. And so even Steve Yegi and Gene Kim, they wrote a book last summer called Vibe Coding. It's really good. Gene Kim's a longtime researcher, Phoenix Project, DevOps Handbook, and Steve Yegi's the guy who was on Forbes for the Amazon leaking the one letter from Bezos. But they wrote an interesting book, and they're talking about how all the seniors are coming back into town because of, they don't have to do all the crap work of the software development, writing tests, a bunch of other things that AI is very good at. But how do we mature juniors? Because at some point, the seniors are going to finally retire or die. And we need to be able to nurture and bring these juniors up. And I think that's a big gap. I mean, AI is doing a lot of cool things, a lot of things here, but how do we replace the seniors with juniors that don't have the classic error and success, right? They fail, they do something that's great, they learn more from their mistakes. I mean, I have.
Yeah. So. And then it's like, they don't know how it actually works. It's the same problem we had in networking when we started doing software-defined networking, right? And it was like, you had the guys that grew up on the command line, like me, from the 90s, early 2000s. You grew up doing network engineering on a terminal with text, right? And there was no UI. And then user interfaces became a thing. And then people were even like, oh, he knows how to do things in the GUI. He doesn't know how to do them on the command line. He's not a real engineer, And then you got even further than that, where it's like, oh, he doesn't know how to do it in the UI. He only knows how to do it with SDN. He doesn't know how it actually works. And so it's like progressed, like, oh, he doesn't know the command line. Oh, he doesn't know the UI. Oh, he doesn't know the SDN. He can just do it with AI. And to your point, like we used to be on calls and say, like, what's going to happen when the rest of us who know how to get out of the UI and drop back to a command line to actually fix something? Like, what happens when we're all gone? Because the UI just simply doesn't have some of those options. So like, where is the gap?
I will say every single industry has that same story. The new age barbers are entirely judged by the old school barbers because of the equipment that they use that's more efficient now. Tattoo artists have the biggest divide in any industry I know of certain tattoo machines that you don't know how to use as compared to this one. And no matter what it is, you tell somebody if you're coming from the old guard, that's the way, and you judge everybody that doesn't know how to do it. And then the new guard is like, why are you wasting time on stuff that's irrelevant now? It really is everywhere. It's so interesting.
That is so interesting. It's like, it's the same with like mechanics and cars with electric cars, and it's like, you got the one mechanic between the three dealerships that bounces between the three because he's the guy who knows how to work on like the Ultium battery connector that goes into a drive motor. And it's like, but he doesn't get to eat lunch with everybody else. Right.
Right.
Well, yeah. My grandfather was a car mechanic, and he always said, in the 90s when cars started getting like computers and anti-lock brakes and all these cool things. And I'm like, oh, Grandpa, like there's this cool new thing. It's got a computer. And like, you think you'll still be relevant in a few years? He goes, it's still a combustion engine at its heart. I can fix that. And I'll be like, well, days have changed.
Yeah.
They're not combustion engines anymore. But
yeah.
He's not going to be a Tesla mechanic. That's for sure.
Yeah. Right. That's crazy, man. Nick, you rocked my world when you said we had 9 minutes left. That was crazy.
You usually
Absolutely.
catch me off guard with that. I
No.
know. It's like, whoa.
I know. There's just so much I get to consume and take in as like a learner on these. Normally when I'm talking my world beard stuff, I'm just delivering. I just get to take all this in. I'm unbelievably privileged to be here. But that unfortunately is it. I can almost guarantee we'll have Matt back in the future if he'll have us, because we're just scratching the surface. There's so many stories I want to pull out of there and experiences and the ways we can relate it to data management and cybersecurity. So I'm gonna just simply say thank you, Matt. This was incredibly interesting, and again, I could talk for hours and hours and hours. I will say we will be on next week, you guys. Same place, same time. Nick, I'll let you take it for our close off and send off for Matt here.
Oh man, yeah. Again, when I looked down and saw that we had 9 minutes, I literally thought I had to check my watch because I thought your timer was. I thought you started the timer like before we started the stream or something. But
Right.
we are at an hour somehow. But Matt, thanks not only for dealing with me on a daily basis, but now taking extra time to deal with me on a live stream. This was fantastic, and hopefully you'll come back and join us again because this was great. And I think it's. Next week's going to be an interesting continuation from this because we're going to have someone that's talking on the cyber threat side of the house and how I'm sure the conversation is going to go into how AI is impacting that. Just like we talked about how it's touching every walk of life right now. We almost can't have any conversation about anything we do without talking about how it's impacted with AI, especially in the technology space, which was all the more reason why this was just a perfect second episode for us, because I feel like it framed up some coming up. So thanks a bunch for joining. Thanks for being the man. Thanks for being always creative and looking to see what's next and teaching me new cool stuff all the time. So, and everyone else, you're welcome. You're welcome for getting to spend an hour with Matt.
Some might not be so welcome on that, but thanks a lot for having me, guys. It's been a freaking blast. And I mean, Nick, you said the hour would go fast, but yeah, it didn't slow down.
That's it. Well,
awesome.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Thanks everyone for being here. Thanks Congruity 360 for letting us do this crazy thing. And thanks everyone for being here.
All right, guys. Have an amazing week. We will see you next